And welcome Pastor as he comes to bring the word today.
I'm glad you're here today. We got an interesting message from some people up in Winnipeg, Canada. Heard me speak years ago, and they come through every once in a while and visit with us. But they wanted this series bad. They said they had all kinds of CDs of mine, hundreds of them literally, and said they went through and they found 2 or 3 of the series from when I did it in 1995. So they've been following us that long. And she said, I was so excited, I think she jumped up and down, ran around when she heard me on live streaming that we were going to do that series again. So we started it. God's story in the stars, the gospel in the stars. Fascinating study. I get fascinated with it. In Genesis 1:14, God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. That word is one of the things that triggered the study on this years ago. Signs. That just doesn't fit with everything else. There's a reason for the zodiac to be there. It was for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And then I went to Psalm 19. And that really messed me up. Everybody reads it and says, the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament shows his handiwork. So if people go out and look at the stars and they say, isn't that wonderful? But the heavens declare. They're saying something. But read the next few verses. The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech. What? They're uttering speech? He's still talking about the firmament. He's still talking about the heavens that declare the glory of God. They utter a speech, and night unto night they show knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. You can't get away from it. It's always there. Their line or their circle is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set the tabernacle for the sun. God has written a story in the heavens. In chapter 1, I'm going to give you a real quick survey. Now, the further we get along, the shorter the review will have to be. Oh, by the way, if you read Josephus, The Antiquities of the Jews, he said the zodiac can be traced all the way back to Adam, Seth, Enoch, and Noah. They all understood the story that God had written in the heavens. In chapter 1, we started with Virgo, the virgin. Picture of a woman who is a virgin, who brought forth a son, who was the desire of all nations, having 2 natures, Son of God and Son of Man, who was slain for the sins of the world. He died, was buried, he rose again, triumphant over death, hell, and the grave. Chapter 1. That's quick. Chapter 2. Libra, the scales. Man weighed in the balance and found wanting. There was no way and nothing man could do to make himself acceptable to God. But when Jesus is placed in the scales, man is found acceptable to God. One of the most interesting things to me about Libra, the scales, the victim, centaur, half man, half horse, had a spear in his hand, and it shows him killing, slaying the victim. The victim is called Lupus, which was the lamb. What fascinated me so much, the lamb represented the Son of God, and so did the centaur who killed him. The one who killed him and the one who died were one and the same. How can that possibly be? Jesus said it this way. He said, I lay down my life for the sheep. He said, no man takes my life. I have the power to lay it down and to take it back again. So the one slain was also the one who did the slaying. That just fascinates me. God has a way of telling the story. Today we're going to talk about Serpico, the scorpion. It's the picture of a giant scorpion with a raised tail trying to strike the man, Ophiuchus, who is struggling. This man is struggling with the serpent while he's trying to crush the scorpion with his foot. Now, church, this is the very heart of the message of the Bible. It reveals the conflict between God and Satan, between the serpent and the seed of woman. The battle still rages today between good and evil, between God and Satan. And ultimately, the battle will rage and finally be concluded between God and Satan. The sad thing is, now listen. The sad thing is that the vast majority of Christianity today has no concept of what Christianity is all about. They listen to a lot of fluff and puff, fake, phony gospel, fake teachers, telling you that if you get saved, you get to be a Christian and send them a bunch of money, that it's just be a rose-petal path to glory all the rest of the way. That all you got to do is just get saved, listen to them, and we'll all be drinking that sweet bubble up and eating that rainbow stew. It's a lie from hell, and if you get deceived and pulled into that, you're a fool. The heart of the battle began in heaven when Lucifer, who was the shining one, Lucifer rebelled against God and was cast out of heaven with a third of the angels. Now understand, there were three archangels, what they call archangels. There was Lucifer, Gabriel, and Michael. And each one of them was in charge of a third of the angels of heaven. Lucifer's job as the shining one was to lead in the worship and praise of the Father. Now this is important. You better understand this. He rebelled. He was cast out of heaven with a third of the angels. His angels followed him. We are still engaged in the conflict between God and Satan. And that's what Christianity is about. Satan is the god of this world. He was cast out down to the earth, and he became the god of this world. That's what God says he is. Remember when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness? He showed Jesus all of the kingdoms of the world. And he said, you can have them all. I'll give them to you. They were his to give. And they listen, you better listen. They were his to give. And he said, I'll give them all to you. One thing he wanted, if you will only bow down and worship me. That has always been the object of Satan's goal, is to be worship. He wants to be the one to be honored, to be revered, to be worshiped. And he offered him all of the kingdoms. Now, whether you know it or not, you're in training. I'm here to train you, to teach you, to grow you up. And I'm training you. You're a special bunch. I'm training you to be special forces in the enemy territory. I'm training you not just to be some fluff and puff Christian. And if you don't want to be trained, you won't be comfortable here. I promise you, you won't be comfortable. I'll make you uncomfortable. I intend. How many were in the military? How many hated your drill sergeant? I hated him. He was First Class Petty Officer Bush. He was nasty. Never forget him. But he was training us. He was taking a bunch of mama's little doughboys and turning them into warriors. We're in enemy territory. We're in this world, but we're not of this world. And we're here, we're behind enemy lines. We're in the kill zone, what they call the kill zone. And I want you prepared when the time comes. And it's coming very quick. You need to be prepared. From Genesis to Revelation, we see this conflict being played out between Satan, the serpent, and the seed of woman. And time after time after time, Satan tried to destroy the lineage that would bring forth the Messiah. And I think there were 3 different times that the lineage was reduced to one. One person was all that remained in the lineage that was supposed to produce the Messiah. I'll give you one example. When Herod found out that Jesus, the King of the Jews, was born, he ordered that all male babies under 2 years of age be killed. That was just an attempt to destroy the lineage. The battle heats up in the book of Revelations. And as we come down to the closing days of time, Revelation 12 tells about the battle begins to focus on Christ and the Antichrist. And notice, I want you to notice here as we get into this scorpion, because you're trying to figure out what the scorpion's got to do with anything. Listen to what he calls him in Revelations 12, beginning at verse 7. There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon, listen to what he calls him. The great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world, and was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. That's how he is described. Now listen. Chapter 3 of God's story in the stars. Serpico the scorpion. The brightest star in Serpico is Antares, which is right in the heart of the scorpion. And it means the wounding. That's the translation of the word, wounding. That is what the scorpion is designed to do. Jesus said that Satan came to steal, kill, and destroy. He's out to destroy you. But you have to understand what he's talking about, and he makes it very clear. It's not actually Satan. He uses his ambassadors, his false prophets, his false teachers to deceive you. They come to steal, kill, and destroy. They don't care a thing about you. They're only interested in what they can get out of you. Now, the battle reached a climax at Calvary when Jesus felt the sting of the scorpion unto death. He died. But as Paul Harvey would say, we know the rest of the story. Jesus not only bruised the head of the serpent, he rose again from the grave. He conquered the scorpion, took the keys of death, hell, and the grave, and we can all shout with the Apostle Paul, "O death, where is thy sting? And O grave, where is thy victory?" Hey, we may die, and they may bury us, but when the trumpet sounds, we're coming out of that ground. Yes. This cemetery out here will be empty, and they're going first. Somebody said, "Why are they going first?" Because they got farther to go. You may as well relax. There are 12 major constellations of the zodiac. They're all telling a story. Each one of the major constellations has 3 minor constellations called decans or decans. And now, Ophiuchus means the serpent holder. That's the definition of the word. And it's a picture of a man struggling with a giant serpent, and the serpent is trying to grasp the crown. That's what Satan did when he rebelled against God and tried to dethrone God. He was cast out of heaven. He wanted the crown. He wanted the place of worship. Satan became jealous of God. He tried to take the throne. That has always been his desire, to be worshiped. He wanted to wipe God totally out of the picture. When he came to Adam and Eve in the garden, he came as a serpent, and he deceived them. And he said, "You won't die if you eat this fruit." God doesn't want you to eat it because he knows when you eat this fruit, you will become like God. You will know good from evil. You will be like God. They didn't know good from evil. They had no concept of good and evil. And he offered to Jesus, he said, "If you will bow down and worship me, I'll give you all of the kingdoms of the world. All you have to do is worship me." That's all he wants. Now listen, listen, listen. That is exactly what's happening in the United States of America today, with humanism and socialism. It's an attempt to take God out of the picture, to wipe God out completely. The government wants every person looking to government to supply their needs rather than look to God. Sorry? Somebody asked me, "Aren't you afraid when you preach the way you do that you offend half of the population?" I said, "The half that I offend do not deserve to be and will not be at the sheep shed because they couldn't put up with me." So if I offend you, I apologize. You're so stupid you got offended. Mack, I would never have said that. That's why you're sitting out there and I'm standing up here. That's what's happening in this country. Behind it all is Satan's attempt to take worship away from God and turn it to government or to something other than where it belongs. Whatever the pagans say about this house of the zodiac, you don't have to be the brightest light in the chandelier to realize and see God's glory revealed in the house of the scorpion. That's the first decan. Second, serpent's the serpent. It's a picture of a man grasping a serpent with both hands, So the serpent cannot get the crown. The man has 1 foot raised. Have we got this on the screen? Man's got 1 foot raised, trying to crush the scorpion's head. And over you see this serpent theme repeated throughout the zodiac. It's always there. As I look ahead and I see, why is it that you see the serpent winding its way all through the zodiac? God's story that he's telling. And yet this serpent is winding his way through. You see him every time you look at it. Why are the heavens filled with this serpent? Because of the conflict between God and Satan. All through the Bible, Satan is portrayed as a serpent, a dragon, a scorpion, Hydra, the giant water snake, and the many-headed snake, which is Cerberus. However he's portrayed, he's always venomous, hostile, the deceiver of man, and he's always the enemy of God. That's why he's constantly wound his way through the circle of the zodiac. That's why Jesus said to his people, Luke 10, verses 18 and 19, he said, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. But I give you power over all the power to tread on serpents and scorpions. What has that got to do with anybody? Anything. And over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Now that doesn't mean you go out handling a bunch of snakes. He's talking about the old dragon, the serpent. You can handle him. And now listen, I handle snakes, but I handle them rough. I kill them. I know there's only 4 kinds of poisonous snakes in the United States, so I'm only afraid of 4. I'm afraid of little ones and big ones, live ones and dead ones. That's the only ones that bother me. I don't want to, and I kill them. I don't care if they're that long. I'll kill it. I don't like them, and they don't like me. But here you see the serpent attempting to gain the crown, but he's being held by this strong man, Jesus. Revelation 20, the end of the conflict takes place when Jesus takes the serpent, binds him, and casts him into the bottomless pit. The third decan, third constellation, minor constellation, is Hercules, the strong man, the mighty one he's called. It pictures a mighty man, a strong man, on one knee. He wears a lion's skin. It's interesting, Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And he holds a club in his right hand. In his left hand, he's holding the 3-headed creature called Cerberus. And his left foot is over the head of the giant dragon. Jesus told the serpent in the garden, the seed of woman, Virgo, will bruise the head of the serpent. Hebrew, the name Hercules means mighty one, the mighty one. Isaiah 9:6 says, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and he shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty One, or Mighty God. Hercules is shown on one knee, a club raised, and one of the stars in the head means the head of him who bruises. God said, he'll bruise your head. Mighty man has in his hand Cerberus, the 3-headed monster, another picture of Satan. And Jesus destroyed the power of Satan. He descended into hell. He led captivity captive. He led those Old Testament saints out of Sheol, out of Abraham's bosom, where they had been confined, until the day He would come and set them free. He led them out into victory, into the presence of God. And then it said, same place, He descended into hell, led captivity captive. And then it says immediately, and He gave gifts unto men. What gifts did He give? He gave apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. I know a lot of denominations said, well, we have evangelists, pastors, and teachers, but we don't have prophets and we don't have apostles. Well, I have a serious question to ask. If God placed them in the church, who had the authority to take them out? We still have apostles. People just don't know what an apostle is. But anyway, it's interesting. The brightest star in the forehead of Hercules is called the head of him that bruises. Genesis 3, God informed the serpent in the garden, he'll bruise the head of the serpent. The second brightest star means the branch kneeling. Remember in Virgo, the virgin was holding a branch in one hand? It's interesting to me that the one who came to redeem the world is called the branch. So it all ties together. When you look past all of the pagan distortion and confusion about the zodiac, it's not hard to see the glory of God revealed in the heavens. I think it is a marvelous thing to see in the unchanging stars of the heavenlies, the glorious signs placed there by God in the night skies for all eyes to see, telling us the story of the gospel message. And I'm going to read you again from Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament shows His handiwork. Day unto day they're uttering speech. They're telling a story. And night unto night they're showing the knowledge of what God's plan is. There is no speech, there's no language on the planet where their voice is not heard. You can't get away from the stars. They're always there telling God's story. Their line or their circle is gone out through all the earth. Everybody can see it. Their words to the end of the world. In them hath He set a tabernacle for the sun. That is fascinating to me beyond belief. That God would not just give us His word, He also told His story in the heavens for all eyes, all languages, all speech to hear. To see God painted with His own hand, using the stars to give a glorious picture of Jesus and victory over Satan and God's redemption of man. He tells the story. The heavens declare the glory of God.